Hey everybody, welcome back to Colony Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. My name is Isaac.
And my name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, from the anime to the movies, to the models, to the manga, to the OVAs, to the music, to the clothes, to the fashion, to the food. You name it, Isaac. We do it all.
That's right, Brian. We talk about anything and everything. In fact, sometimes we even talk about what people are talking about in the comment section.
That's right. It's time for our annual mailbag episode.
The mailbag.
Yeah.
Open up that bag just like St. Nick's opens up his big bag of gifts for all the good little girls and boys, right?
That is right. And so listeners, if you've never listened to a mailbag episode before, we basically go through some of our favorite comments from the last year on all of our videos and such, and discuss them on the air, so to speak, for the ones that we at least think would be interesting.
Sometimes the saltiest comment.
Yeah, we got a few salty ones this year, so that's good.
It's like, oh, good, duck and cover. Damn, shots fired.
Yeah, some people are upset out there.
No, watch out.
So before we do that, Isaac, we have two things to discuss. One, what you're eating right now, and two, I think before we do the comments for the year, we'll talk about maybe a roadmap for 25, and then people can also suggest what they would like to see us cover for 25.
Well, right now, I happen to be enjoying some delicious chocolate fudge, handmade from a wonderful place here in Southern California called Knott's Berry Farm. Recommend you all check it out. Get yourself at minimum 5 pounds of fudge.
Oh, that is a lot of fudge.
You have to eat some as you're driving back, and then you get home and you eat more. That's how it works, right?
Can you get a ticket for that? Driving while eating fudge?
Driving while fudged?
Yeah.
Driving while insulin spiked?
Driving while fudged up.
Hopefully not, because I'd be guilty.
Yeah, so you like Knott's Berry Farm fudge the most. That's like super unhelpful for people that live in other areas of the country.
You know what? If Knott's Berry Farm's enterprising enough, they'll sell it and ship it, right?
Yeah.
Then again, do you want your fudge shipped? That's another question, because it doesn't keep very well.
No, fudge. Yeah, you got to eat fudge like the week that you make it. Otherwise, not so good.
Yeah, so if you're on the other side of the country, sorry. But you know what? Come out to California. We're the Golden State. We're so happy to have visitors and people coming over. Just come enjoy our beautiful cities and beaches and our delicious fudge. Go fudge yourself.
Do you think that fudge is inherently a holiday snack?
Not for me.
Okay, for a normal person.
I eat whatever I want.
Fair enough.
For most people, I have to wonder. I don't think so, because it's overshadowed. Well, if it is, it's very low in the totem pole compared to things like, gingerbread or eggnog or Christmas cookies in general. It's not really...
Sure.
It's not holiday enough to qualify.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so I have a good relationship with fudge. My grandma used to make fudge all the time at the holidays, and it was regarded as this family secret thing that she did, like grandma's fudge.
Oh, it's like the family Eucharist.
yeah, basically.
Only she has the power to make it, and it only shows up once in a while.
Fudge is pretty difficult to make, so it was kind of like you have to pour it out at a certain temperature, and if you don't, you mess it up.
Yeah.
And so one time in high school, Isaac, we had to do a how-to speech, and you had to pick a topic. And I did how to make fudge. And that was when I found out, Isaac, that my family's, I went to my grandma and I was like, hey, can I make the fudge? Can you give me the recipe? And it turned out that she was just making the fudge recipe on the back of the Jet Puff marshmallow, thing. So it wasn't, and I read an article like this last year that said basically most family recipes are from the back of boxes of just household items that people buy.
Wow. I mean, that has to be true, too, right? Because, no matter how far back in your family's history you go, they were very busy. So if they had a box with instructions on it or a bag that had instructions on it, they just read that and followed it and went on with their evening because there was just too much to do, a lot of kids to take care of, and they were tired, just like all of us today.
That's right, exactly. And it's not like, your family was from magical fudge land or whatever the equivalent is, right?
Yeah.
You were the same as every other person on the block, and so it makes way more sense.
Your family was carrying a secret fudge recipe and 5 pounds of fudge on the Mayflower when they came over. No.
So I'm going to round this back out to Gundam, Isaac.
Sure.
In Gundam, who do you think would bake the best fudge?
Oh, wow. Probably biscuit.
Yeah, I was thinking cookie and cracker, Biscuit's sisters.
Yeah, I mean, not just because of their names, but like, Biscuit, how do I put this delicately? He's uniquely sized amongst all the other employees at Tekkadan.
He looks like he enjoys a good plate of fudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
He's mostly at the base, right? At the garage,
yeah.
Working on the suits. So he's technically closest to the rest of the kitchen and, the eating areas. So he's going in there, maybe making some fudge, eating it up. Why not?
Yeah, I think fudge would be a great morale boost for Tekkadan. Don't you?
Yeah. Tekkadan would be happy with like almost anything that had like a sprinkling of sugar on it. I bet they've never even had anything near the delicious sugary treats that we've had as children growing up, because they're human debris, Brian.
Yeah. Knott's Berry Farm got taken out first in the Calamity War.
Just a mobile armor shows up.
Early casualty.
They sent out Snoopy Gundam, and he did his best against the orbiting mobile armor beam cannon.
Didn't work out.
No.
Anyway, all right, that was our fudge tangent.
Yeah.
So, listeners, go get yourself some fudge this holiday season.
Fudge yourself and fudge your family. Tell your parents to go fudge themselves.
And tell them Colony Drop said it's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So for 25, I wrote down some ideas, because listeners are always saying, oh, you should cover this, you should cover this. This is my like highlight list that I would like to cover for 25. I don't think we'll get to all of these, but at least if we hit a few of these, I think that would be a success.
Wow.
You mentioned you wanted to read the Mobile Suit Gundam novels.
Why not? Yeah.
I think it's about time we watch Turn A Gundam.
Oh, wow.
I feel like we got to watch that before we watch G-Reco.
Yeah. Not to give too much away, but let's just say they might be stepping on each other's foot.
Sure.
They're definitely rubbing shoulders. We'll leave it at that.
One's certainly a spiritual successor to the other. So
yeah.
I would love to do Zeta.
Oh, yeah. That's long overdue almost.
Long overdue. Because I would like to do Zeta before we do Sentinel. I've always wanted to read Gundam Sentinel. Before we do Zeta, though, I would love to do Char's Deleted Affair, because that has a lot of build-up to Zeta. I've never read Char's Deleted Affair, and we've had multiple requests to do Char's Deleted Affair. The only problem is Char's Deleted Affair is very long, so we'd have to discuss how we would do that. And the other thing I thought would be fun to do, Isaac, is because to me, these Hathaway movies are just taking too damn long, so I think we should just go read the Hathaway novels, given that we already know the ending.
You know what? Not only is that good to do because we're just desperate for the story to continue, but we can even do a comparison once the series gets completed. Be able to look at it with different eyes. And, fans listening, there's at least a few, or more than a few, that knows exactly how Hathaway's Flash ends.
I think that's probably the most famous part of the story, so,
Yeah, it's very much, being a Star Wars fan now, young and up and coming, and you already know who Darth Vader is.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, well, I didn't see it, but like pop culture has told me in the fandom exactly who's who.
Right, yeah. Any thoughts of what you would want to do in 25 that was not on that list, Isaac? Or what's at the top of your burning desire list?
Okay, you took Zeta out of my mouth.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'd actually like to do Double Zeta.
Ooh, also. Okay.
A bit of a tall order, but I feel like
a double feature.
Yeah, once those two are done, like we're essentially done with the Universal Century.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Right?
Other than manga, yeah. I mean,
and then continuing that theme of just clearing our deck of the Universal Century, Unicorn.
Yes,
Unicorn's waiting for us.
I mean, I guess we still have Twilight Axis and Narrative too, but we can't do. See, we've always held back on Unicorn until we watch Double Zeta, because I feel like Double Zeta heavily influences Unicorn.
Yeah.
If we're going to do a full review on it, I'd like to, refresh myself on the Double Zeta stuff. So, and then you have to do Unicorn before you do Narrative. So a lot of this kind of hinges on Zeta, because that's kind of the beginning to all of this. So that's the reason why we've held back. We wanted to do it in a little bit of a linear fashion.
Yeah. So I guess I'm pretty much saying I'd like to just have us, lock our arms together and just bulldoze through the Universal Century in terms of viewing content, streaming content. Outside of Universal Century, though, Brian, I absolutely think that the time has come for your pride and your joy. The cherished series close to your heart, G Gundam.
Oh, you're right, because they have that new story going on right now.
Exactly. And in addition to that, in the same vein as G Gundam, which is very, as we all know, fight-oriented with combative sport, the Build Fighter series.
Oh, yes.
Those are perfect to round out, I think, towards the end of the year, if everything goes to plan. because it'll be such a reward for seeing all the other prior series, since Build Fighters, it's essentially the closest thing to a pure fan service show.
Yeah, it's a homage, for the whole thing.
Yeah,
right? So.
Right. You see all kinds of mobile suits and callbacks and things like that, and it's so lighthearted and fun. How much pain and agony and it doesn't exist in Build Fighters. It's just people playing a game, essentially having fun.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's a pretty ambitious list. We'll see how far we get down there, but I like it.
No more movies where the power cuts out.
No, please no. Although it does make for a funny story. Horrible experience, but a funny story.
Yeah. For listeners outside of California, though, I do have to say that we have a very reliable power grid. This was a fluke isolated to one city block.
Most of the time. There was that period in the 2000s where you had the brownouts, remember? So that wasn't fun. But
yeah. But that was, we had a heat wave and it was in summer, so we all kind of expected it to happen, but those days are over.
All right. Shall we get to the comments, Isaac?
Let's do it. We have lots of comments here in the mailbag. Lots of little envelopes that somehow make a chiming noise at the same time when you're pulled out and opened up.
That's right. So
communication.
We're sitting here on the King Space Pig, and we're ready to open the first envelope. Where would you like to start, Isaac?
Well, let's start at the beginning, which would be regarding a new opening tune.
Yes. Some of you may have noticed that we have a new opening song, courtesy of, I don't know, some guy on the internet that Isaac found to make one. So,
if you didn't notice, you're quite oblivious as a person, or you've just been skipping the intro, like whatever.
Yeah, it's new now, so you can give it another spin before you skip it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the intro, Isaac, and how we arrived at this new one?
Sure. So the music producer I gave this to, I told him that we wanted an intro very similar to like the Adult Swim Toonami type bumpers and little trailer teasers that played that would tell people about Mobile Suits and Mobile Suit Gundam and the series, and also the intro song for Mobile Suit Gundam that used to play on Toonami. Yeah, we for legal reasons we obviously can't play it right now, but you can obviously YouTube it and listen to it. It's got like such a nice little fun, sort of tech beat to it. And then the show starts. The only difference is, we couldn't obviously use the voiceovers, the like Giran saying, some evil speech, and then other characters and Amuro talking. But for the most part, I feel like it did the job. It's a bit more upbeat and got some more energy going into it. You can kind of close your eyes and imagine the Gundams flying around in space and mobile suits, and then the intro text of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast.
Yeah, I like it. I think it sounds a bit more Gundam-y, which is what we were going for, right?
Right.
And longtime listener and a person we met in person at Anime Expo, Great White, he said it reminds him of F-Zero, which I think is a favorable comparison. F-Zero is a good game. It has a good vibe. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that game, as famous as that game is, it's never made quite a comeback, did it?
The last one, if I recall, I can't remember if they made one for Wii. I know they made one for GameCube, and it was so difficult. I think the difficulty turns people off, at least over here, maybe not in Japan, but that game is so difficult. And I like hard games, but that one is punishingly difficult.
Yeah. I remember it was on Super Nintendo back in the day, but I never actually owned it or beat the game or anything like that. I wonder if it's one of those games now where, there's retro speed runs and all that. There must
probably, yeah. I think it's due for a comeback. Nintendo, if you're listening, you should, do that.
Yeah, why not?
And then, you could just have like an F-Zero crossover with Gundam, and you could make, instead of Gundam Mario Kart, you could make Gundam F-Zero. That would work too, Sunrise.
Of course, yeah. Sunset will handle it.
All right, Isaac. Next topic is coordinators. We've got a lot of good comments on coordinators. Some good, some bad. Some people didn't like our take on coordinators. So let's talk about the first one on the list, and this is from Anthony Walker on YouTube.
Angry Anthony.
He's not too happy with this, Isaac, and I'm sure Anthony's a cool guy. Nothing against Anthony, just he didn't like our take.
Is he?
He said 6 minutes in and you're complaining that they didn't give a detailed breakdown of how Coordinator's immune system functions. I don't think the show lost a plot. I think you did. And I said, well, given that the supposed superiority of Coordinators over Naturals is the whole reason for the conflict, I think it's a fair question. And he said, did Dune give a detailed breakdown of how spice works? Or did Star Wars what a hyperdrive is? And the ones that did give an explanation, end up being completely wrong scientifically. And I said, well, hyperdrives in Star Wars are not driving the underlying conflict, so I don't see the equivalency there. he then replied that, yeah, like certain events could happen in Star Wars without the hyperdrive. And I'm not saying that certain events in Star Wars could happen without the hyperdrive, because obviously they can't. But my point is, and I just don't think we're going to see eye to eye on this, Anthony, but thanks for listening to the show. Hope you enjoy the other episodes. But I would say that I don't think that Star Wars is a story about hyperdrives, Isaac. I think Star Wars is a story about the hero's journey with space wizards, basically. And what I'm saying is that the equivalent thing here is they're telling us that coordinators don't get sick, and that causes part of the rift between the coordinators and the naturals, and they don't like each other about it enough to start a whole war over it and kill millions of people. So the equivalency in Star Wars to me would be if you told us that this is the Jedi and these are normal people and they don't like Jedis, and then we never learn how the Force works, like they never show us. So I think what would have been effective in the show is to say, oh, you know what? There was a plague and the coordinators didn't get sick because of XYZ. Maybe their bodies were able to produce a better antibody or something, and maybe they were unwilling to share the antibodies or the vaccines with the naturals, and that's why they got upset. Instead, they just fiat it into existence and say, well, they don't get sick very often, and people are upset about that. We don't see how, we don't see why. It just is. And so that's my point, Anthony. You can disagree with it, but that's how I see it. What do you say, Isaac?
Wow. Well, let me just say, Anthony, our question isn't how a coordinator's immune system functions or exactly how an immune system functions in general. I think Brian and I can both agree that white blood cells fight to keep you healthy and safe. What we wanted a bit more detail on is the blanket, wide-reaching, broad statement that coordinators do not get diseases. And I don't think most people would disagree that there is a large varied number of diseases. So that could be everything from viruses to bacteria to genetic diseases to sort of random diseases that kind of show up in your body, and then it turns out, oh, your health is in trouble. I think we wanted a bit more light shed on that aspect so that we could sort of understand just how engineered and different the coordinators were if, unlike almost every other human being who has ever lived, they have never been sick, whereas everybody else has been sick at least multiple times in their life. Am I right, Brian?
Yeah. Isaac, I think I would love to see Kira get a cold, and it would just knock him on his ass because he doesn't know how to deal with it. He's just like suffering, he's got a stuffy nose, and he's just miserable.
God, that's just an underutilized plot that we never saw the series do, which would have been great if the Naturals, or Blue Cosmos really, because who else would do it, ended up making a bioweapon against specifically coordinators that only affects them. But we didn't. We'll save that.
Yeah, that was the hypothetical plot that you brought up for Freedom, right? Like, that would be, to me, way more intriguing than like a random new faction that just sprung up on Earth, right?
The Kingdom of Foundation, Brian?
Yeah. The virus idea would have been a much better foundation for a film than the Kingdom of Foundation was.
And Anthony, I'm not trying to nitpick your examples too much, but let me just say that, like, Gundam, as wacky as it can get, it's a bit more leaning towards hard science. It's got a foot in hard science simply because the colonies are at Lagrange points. They generally use technology that we understand, like reactors and beam weapons, things such as that. It's take place in a much more grounded science fiction setting than, say, Dune, where where there's spice and prescience and communication and all sorts of mind-altering things that are less grounded than Gundam. And Star Wars, which, as we all know, is space fantasy, and the hyperdrive is sort of just hand-waved as... Well, they keep retconning exactly how a hyperdrive works, so we never really know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
In college, I took a class that was called Plots, and it was all about different types of stories. And we read a lot of Philip K. Dick, and one of the things that we discussed was what is and what is not considered sci-fi or science fiction. And under the literary definition that I came away with in that class, it was that Star Wars would not be considered science fiction. It's a fantasy show. It's just in space. It's not necessarily science fiction. Science fiction, there are some people that would say science fiction has to push the envelope in terms of trying something new, putting a new idea out there that people haven't really thought of, or I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but you have to push the envelope in terms of what sort of material you're presenting, etc. It's not really just a hero's journey type of story like Star Wars is. So, for example, Star Wars would not be considered science fiction, which some people might get upset about that, whereas Star Trek would be. That's because Star Trek tries to push the envelope and it tries to see the human race in new ways. And this part of the tag of the show, right? Worlds we have never gone before, whatever they say. I'm going to make Star Trek people mad by not getting the quote right, but you get what I'm saying.
To boldly go, Brian.
Yes.
To boldly go.
My brother is very upset at me right now. He's a big Star Trek nerd. So
planets we've never landed on. Oh.
Right.
Okay. Well, Anthony, give us a break. Because we didn't lose the plot, all right? We really enjoy Seed. It's very approachable in terms of, Gundam. Some of the stuff that happens is laughably wacky, but no, we didn't lose the plot, Anthony. We just had some lingering questions about the differences between coordinators and naturals, and we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Yep. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episodes, Anthony. Hope you stick around.
Yeah. Get a cold.
Get a cold, Kira. That should be at least a side story manga where Kira gets a cold.
Sure.
I think it could be funny. The next two are from Areku 2021 on YouTube. He or she was wanting to know why we are assuming that Aura Mahakaiber willingly allowed Siegel Klein to raise Lacus, and that Siegel gently took Lacus off her hands. He doesn't think that Siegel would be one to fill Lacus's head with accord grandeur and allow others to do so. I was going back and forth with him a little bit, and I don't know that we're exactly assuming that, Isaac. I think, in my opinion, we are assuming that something must have happened because Aura no longer has Lacus. And I think the point we were trying to get at is no matter what explanation you put in there, it's lackluster. And so there's basically three things that could have happened. She tried once to get Lacus back, and it didn't, and she failed. She tried all the time for the last 20 years or so, however old Lacus is, and she still failed, couldn't get her back. Or she willingly gave her away. And I don't like any of those explanations.
No, and you shouldn't, because what we're doing at this very moment, in conjunction with Areku 2021, is we're attempting to bridge the blank spaces in bad writing, which is exactly what happened in Freedom. Aura is a bad character. We have so many questions about her that were never explained. A lot of it doesn't make sense, especially with her age regressing. We haven't heard anything about it, and if it exists in a side manga series, we haven't read it or know about it. And that's how we got here. And that's why there really isn't a good answer that anyone can think up logically.
Right. And I'll say this, it doesn't mean that the movie's not fun to watch or anything. It just means that we think that part of the movie is not very well explained. And the reason why we harp on it so much is because she's such a key character, the plot of the film, but she barely has any lines, Isaac. I don't know that she said more than 10 lines. She kind of was just making angry faces, right, when she was on the screen?
At first she was pretty hospitable, and then once the plot was revealed, yeah. But then again, a lot of the action was taken over by Prime Minister guy.
Yeah.
There's just so many questions with her existence in general. Her age, really. It's like, what? And then the whole plot that they shoehorned in that explains Kira and Lacus, it's just a bit of a mess.
It's unnecessary, I think. I don't think you had to get that messy with it. I think they could have thought up something else. But anyway, it was a fun movie. But yeah, I think that's where we were going with that, Areku. So I don't know if you agree, but maybe you have a better explanation. So if you all out there have a better explanation for what the heck happened that you think is a good headcanon, let us know in the comments. I would love to hear it. Number 2 from Areku, Isaac. This he's a good thinker, he or she. He's doing some math here. He's like, look, he's bringing up our point about why the coordinators don't do very well against the naturals, given that they're supposed to be so much better. And he does some math and figures out there's roughly 20 to 40 million coordinators in the plants. He says, well, if there's only 20 to 40 million coordinators, that leaves plenty of naturals to support the quantity versus quality conflict. He said, what true naturals do anything of note against coordinators in mechs of comparable quality without a numerical advantage? Calls out Mu and Kamille. And there's also the extended, but those are sort of a special case. I don't think they should count as a normal natural.
They're patriots, Brian.
And so he asked, are there any other naturals of note? And I don't know that our point was, are there any other naturals of note? I actually took it the opposite way, Isaac. I was thinking, well, I think he's right. I don't think there's any other naturals of note unless there are some in the manga that we're not aware of and that people who would watch the TV series are not aware of. I think what we're saying is, when you think of the 20 to 40 million people that are coordinators in his example, how many of coordinators of those of note are there? Less than 50?
Almost less than 5, really.
Because outside of the ones of note, the Atherin's team in the first series, Shin's team in the second series, outside of those and the people immediately around them, which I'm thinking is less than 50, the other people kind of just, mook it up against the naturals in the Strays and the Daggers. I don't think there's enough coordinators of note to say that they're that much better.
Absolutely. Atherin's rank in the original Seed at least, and the rest of his team with the red uniform as aces, there's other aces in other squads, and we never hear about them and we never see them. What we do hear about and what we do see are coordinator pilots in gins and all kinds of other suits, goons, whatever, being blown up left and right by the so-called inferior natural pilots, and not necessarily always in situations where they're overwhelmed by numbers. It's oftentimes 1v1, or simply one shot from one natural pilot. So this is very much a case of the coordinators, almost more in theory rather than in practice, are held to a standard of being superior.
Right, and maybe they could have gone against that a bit if they had given us scenes in the series that say, oh, you know, as usual, a team of 10 coordinators is taking on a team of 50 naturals with some success. But we don't really hear those sort of background numbers at all.
No, we don't. And it's almost proven how there really isn't a ratio in those situations where we see coordinators defeating naturals 1-to-1, or in situations where it was completely out of the control of external factors, like, you know, one pilot had a Gundam. Well, that's not always the case. So one pilot was able to just fight the other one when they're just mobile suit versus mobile suit, standard mobile suits,
right.
Windams, whatever. And the coordinators never really have a great showing when it's just them.
Maybe what we're asking is they should have established a ratio that was noticeable in the show. And I don't think they did that.
Absolutely, yeah. Or visibly show us that, like, the gins were engineered in a better way, which isn't really what we see, especially towards the end in the final battles. Once the Earth Alliance has their own mobile suits, as far as I'm concerned, they're very comparable to whatever Zaft is putting out.
Agreed. All right, Isaac, sticking with coordinators, Jaeger Zaku on YouTube, he wants to know if you enjoyed the Seed Gyan.
Not too much. I'll say this about Seed. I enjoy it more when it brings uniquely designed mobile suits. The whole borrowing mobile suits from the Universal Century isn't something I'm too big a fan of. But yeah, the shield thing was cool because it like had a huge amount of weapons shooting all out of it. It was a little Crossbone Vanguard almost.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so there's your answer, Jaeger Zaku. Yeah, so. He could take it or leave it, I think.
Yeah, I'd rather leave it. Leave the shield. Take the Gian away.
Is there a Mook suit in Seed that you enjoyed?
Wow. Do Windams count? The nuclear Windam?
Yeah, well, on the Zaft side, I guess.
Oh, Zaft. You know what? The Jin has kind of grown on me. I feel like as a model, it'd be very top-heavy because of that head fin.
Yeah.
But overall, it's not a bad look. You know, for making it so distinguished from the Zaku, it's pretty good. They did a good job with that. They took the existing Zaku and said, we need our own Zaku, and they made something unique, I think. It's unique enough. So it was always fine seen on screen.
Okay, next comment is from our pal Great White. This made me laugh when I read it, Isaac. He said, Brian is looking for hot single patchwork mommies. I think there's an app for that. And patchwork is the slur for coordinators, we learned. And I just wanted to point out some irony here, Isaac. I think the show made it out to be that Ramius was the most desirable woman in the show, I'll say. And she's a natural. She's not even a coordinator. So the coordinators, through all their enhanced genes, could not outdo Ramius's beauty. Apparently not, no. Or her luck, I should say. Since she twice now has narrowly escaped the destruction of her ship. True. So I told Great White that the naturals have Ramius, so make my world blue and pure. I will be skipping the Patchwork Mommies app. Good for you. Stick to the naturals. There's too much drama with the coordinators, you know. And coordinators, as we all know, when you're in the Zaft or when you're in the plants, the government's like one day away from changing. All right, Isaac, next topic is about destroying the Gundam. We did an episode where all we did was think about ways to destroy the RX-78-2 Gundam during the 1 Year War. And we got some suggestions here, and they want to know what you think of them. GeoZev9423 on YouTube, he or she's got several ideas here. And some of these are pretty diabolical, Isaac. Like, he's not joking around. Okay? He would attach civilians to his mobile suit. Like, he would just go into battle with people tied to his mobile suit, and Amuro would either be forced to kill them or let himself get taken out. So basically civilian shields. How approved is this in wartime? Number one, this is a war crime. Number two, I think Amuro would actually be the perfect person to use this against. You know, I can't see him shooting at it if there's civilians on it. Right. Number three,
God, how would this even be engineered? This might even give, like, the crew of Xeon mechanics and troops that you ordered to do this some pause.
Right.
You know? As we all know with Xeon, it's kind of a coin flip if you run into someone that's, atrocity gung-ho or someone that's actually a very good moral person. It really depends, and I can see them shooting the pilot that ordered them to chain civilians to their mobile suit like they were armor. God, how long are the civilians going to be chained up there? Do they have like food and water, or are they just like after a few days it's just corpses hanging off the side of the mobile suit? This is nightmarish. This guy, God, Geox Ev, he has to be a villain in one of our side stories, and this is exactly what he does. He's just a sick, twisted enemy pilot that like all the other no. This guy is so sick and twisted by doing this to the civilians that like the Federation sends like multiple squads after him, and it's like its own little 8th MS team side story. But this time, instead of going after a mobile armor, they're going after one sick and twisted enemy ace.
It's a good target for like a war crime squadron, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. You're a monster.
Kind of saw that in Victory Gundam. Remember with Uso's mom, the guy like held her up, and it obviously didn't turn out well for her. So I don't think these civilians would have a different fate than Uso's mom did.
No, whenever civilians get involved in Gundam, it almost always goes bad.
Yeah. He's also, by the way, is suggesting that you send in a Xeon spy that has a bomb in their body, a la Hunter x Hunter.
No, a la the Joker
from
The Dark Knight, who had his goon brought to the Gotham City jail and then detonated inside the police precinct.
Yep, that's right. Great movie. Or, I love this one, Isaac. I think he's just throwing in the towel here, because he's also suggesting that you just pull a drive-by while Amuro is on her. So you just pull up and shoot Amuro like while he's having lunch. And then what gets me is he said, like, with that one girl that was in the toy store in Iron Blooded Orphans, which he doesn't even remember Laughter's name. You're killing me here, Geozev. Poor Laughter. I'm still upset about that one. She deserved happiness with Akihiro, and all she got was a face full of lead. But yeah, those are diabolical ideas.
That dumb broad that was buying a teddy bear. Oh my god. Geo, you're a monster. You're like the Joker of Gundam. That's who your character pilot will be. And like, his ace symbol is like a playing card Joker. Oh my god. That's on the side of his helmet and on his Mono Izaku. Oh, wow.
Got a new villain. I will say,
Isaac,
he's playing to win, though. He's thinking to win.
Yeah. He and Giran will get along very well. Giran like saved his contacts on his phone.
He's going to the top of Giran's elite guard.
Yeah, pretty well. He's part of he's part of Xeon's or Giran's crack like special forces team. Wow.
Yeah. So
man, I don't even know what to say.
So great ideas,
This guy's on the list.
9423.
He's on the list.
Watch out for him on YouTube. All right, next topic, Isaac, is 0083. By the way, we did get a lot of listeners who were going back and listening to some of our older episodes because I think primarily of the switch over to YouTube Podcast, which re-uploaded all of our episodes as part of YouTube Podcast rather than the old YouTube videos we had. I had some people that were confused about those, but it is what it is. I didn't want to delete the old ones because they had lots of fun comments on them. So now we just have two.
Sure.
Of some of the older ones, but it is what it is. We wanted those episodes to show up in the YouTube podcast directory, so that's how it's gonna have to be. But and I think it's working because people found out there's 0083 episodes. So
well, I think me and Brian, there's a lot of fans of Afterglow of Xeon.
No,
the quickly deleted version of 0083.
Please no. So first comment on 0083, Isaac. This person. Die Ghostfish on YouTube. During that episode, we were wondering about the different depictions of the moon in Gundam, of Luna. And there was a time when we wanted to do an episode just about those depictions of Luna, where we gathered them all up and talked about them. And then we kind of decided that was too much work because there's not really a good index of those appearances somewhere. Like, how would you really know unless you went through and watched all the shows and documented which episodes they were in, which mangas they were in? That's very difficult to do. Could be done. Could take a long time, though. He or she did point out, though, that Zeta's got a lot of stuff about the moon, mostly Granada on the dark side. Ayuk's financiers are there. Anaheim is there. Obviously, the Titans are trying to colony drop the moon. The final battle is all about saving the moon. So, yeah, that'll be good to see some good moon stuff coming up in Zeta if we do watch that.
Yeah, definitely. He does point out, spoiler alert, everybody, that the Titans do attempt a colony drop on the moon, which I need to rewatch but I imagine wasn't engaging enough for multiple reasons, namely the moon being not as populated as Earth, which is why nobody ever again in any series ever bothered trying to destroy the moon.
I mean, they all might think that, oh, Anaheim's there, I kind of want my stuff. Maybe don't wreck it too bad.
Yeah. It'd be like in a movie where, like, the terrorists steal a nuclear weapon and, like, they're about to announce where they're going to detonate it, and they say, like, Antarctica. You know?
Yeah.
None of the powerful countries are really going to care that much.
Isaac, what is more maniacal, like, from an evil plot? A colony dropping the Earth or the moon? Because I feel like Earth is just straight up you're trying to kill people, but the moon is much more like cartoon villain, right? Like, I will destroy the moon, you know what I mean?
Ironically, not to get all sciencey nerd here, but as we all know, dropping colonies on Earth, you're throwing pebbles at a mountain. You know, and almost nothing is going to damage the Earth anymore. It can take so many colony drops as we've seen. However, the moon is needed to keep the Earth stable. So theoretically, if something or someone did destroy the moon, things on Earth would get very bad, if not have dire consequences for life on Earth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe you would screw up all the tides if you knock the moon's orbit off a little bit. It could be real bad. So maybe that is actually the more maniacal plan.
The wiser strategy, yeah, really. Maybe it'll happen in a Gundam side story.
Maybe. Second comment from Daigo's Fish. He said, I think the GPO-2 has a full strategic nuke. Miyazaku's were slinging around tactical nukes in the 1 week war. This is a full H-bomb. And Isaac, do we know exactly why GPO-2's nuke is so big? I should probably do some calculations on that. Does anyone know? Does anyone have those calculations done? If you do, put them in the comments.
I mean, we don't have the calculations, but I think our understanding of the reasoning for why it was built is this mobile suit prototype, this Gundam prototype, its nuclear weapon and its entire purpose is built to be able to destroy a falling colony that is dropped on an attack on Earth. So for that reason, this nuclear weapon needs to be powerful enough to destroy almost all, if not the entire colony itself. So that's why it's so big and powerful.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Is that in the show? How do you know that?
It's not in the show, but we have to infer that based on the whole purposes of GP2 being created, Admiral Cohen's project. It's not an anti-fleet weapon. It's a counter colony drop weapon, just in the same way that Cohen's rival faction, led by Kolony and Jamatov, built a new solar system to try to be able to destroy a colony itself, which had never happened before because we know they've only used it on stationary targets, and we saw how that went. So the whole purpose of the nuke on GP2 has to be against a colony. Otherwise, there's no point in using a nuke against fleets. You know, that almost doesn't work very well with Minovsky systems in the heat of battle.
I mean, I like that explanation. At this point, I don't know what fleet you would be designing this against, right? Because Zeon's gone.
Yeah.
The fleet at Axis, but I wouldn't say that they're a threat at the moment.
No, and also, I find it hard to believe that the Federation, with its resources and size, is somehow worried about an Axis fleet and needing to use a nuclear weapon to take them all out because it doesn't have the ability to fight them almost ship to ship. The Federation doesn't have a problem. But what the Federation does have a problem with is, how do you counter a colony drop? There really hasn't been any answer in all of UC or other series. That's because the only answer, really, is to try to destroy it. And we've seen that with how the Solar System 2 was deployed and failed to destroy the colony drop in 0083.
They singed it, a little bit.
Yeah, they cooked it. We see how the Grips 2 colony laser is designed to attack colonies, so theoretically at least. In the right hands, it could have been used to attack a colony the moment a drop operation was, just beginning, before it was underway. So much in the same way, yes, this is absolutely designed to be able to destroy a colony. It was just Cohen's way of doing it, and not exactly a bad way of going about it, I have to say, because, well, the Federation already has nukes. They know how they work. Let's just put one on a mobile suit, make it big, and find a way to kind of point it through a cannon and take out a whole colony, or in this case, take out their own fleet.
That is such like a masculine solution to the problem, isn't it?
Well, Brian, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
That's true. Comment from Gunpla Mechanic, who really enjoyed Plot to Assassinate Giran. Shout out to you. Hope you're doing well. He wants to know, Isaac, now that they have an HG Dendrobium, are you going to build that one? And so my question for you, Isaac, is I don't think either of us would turn down an HG Dendrobium.
No.
But now there's a HG Destroy Gundam. So if given the choice, what would you prefer to build, the Dendrobium or the Destroy?
That's a pretty tough one because I feel like I like the Destroy more. But the Dendrobium was pretty awesome in 083, even though I usually don't like Federation suits.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a toss-up, really. But I think I might get the Destroy before the Dendrobium.
Fair. Okay. Well, to counter that, I think I'll get the Dendrobium just so we can have one of each.
There you go. Perfect.
It is the size of like a small child, though, so I'm not sure that I could succeed in bringing that one home. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm looking at my high-grade Dom Tropin on my desk, and I'm thinking, God, the Dendrobium itself, it must be a size of the large fraction of my desk. Yeah.
Yep, we'll just get a bigger desk. That's the solution. So
of course. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're still really holding out that they complete the set, right, and do a high-grade Noiseel.
Oh, why not? The Noiseel, it might be the best-looking mobile armor ever made.
If they did that, Isaac, how fast would you open your wallet? You're like a
Instantly.
day one pre-order, right?
Oh, yeah, that's me. Noiseel, day one. It's such a well-designed mobile suit. It just has such a sinister look to it. It really is like the crescendo of... Clearly, I listen to classical music. Of 083's ending. You know, that was the perfect thing for Zeon to send out. Man, it was great. What a great battle.
I love it. All right, Isaac. Next topic was Mobile Suit Pundam Volume 1, where we came up with punny merchandise that Sunrise should be selling to maximize the value of this brand, but they're not doing it.
Right.
And I gotta say, Isaac, we got a lot of really good submissions. Some of which are very obvious and cracked me up, and I can't believe we didn't think of them. Geozev is back. These are more diabolical than his diabolical ways to destroy the Gundam. He's got Gundam War in the Pocket, Hot Pizza Pockets. Fantastic.
Wow.
This one I can't believe they didn't do, Isaac. My Little Pony Gundam Unicorn toy line.
That'd be a great crossover. I wonder how big My Little Pony is in Japan.
I don't know, but it's big here, so I feel like there's some money to be made there. This one's super obvious. The Iron-Blooded Orphans ironing board. The ironer is Barbatos's head, and the board is the giant mace.
They have to make it kid size though, so human debris can iron the clothes.
Oh, jeez. It's a small one. Oh, my lord. The other ones he had was colony drop cough drops. That's brilliant. You make it the little shape of a colony, and you pop it in your mouth. That's fantastic.
You know, that can only be swallowed one way, right? Because if you swallow it with like the colony panels open towards your mouth, that'll be the last thing that you do.
Well, you gotta suck on it for a while and dole it a little bit, you know.
The box says chew it first, and then
it's dangerous, just like actual colony drops.
Yeah.
Sandwiches from Mercury. I love that. That's great. And then this is an easy one, Isaac. G Gundam Gatorade. The G is already there.
The fuel of Gundam pilots. There's so much they can do with it.
Yeah, and Fruit Punch is a really popular red Gatorade flavor. And that works super well with Domon's, he's mainly associated with red and black. So that's perfect. King of Hearts.
Perfect. Yeah. Man, God, all the country flavors you could do.
Great White. Isaac had one of the most brilliant ones. And as someone who played baseball growing up, I can't believe I didn't think about this. How about Gundam Seed sunflower seeds? Kira's face is on the original, Atherin's on barbecue, Shin's on hot and spicy, Izak's on ranch with his blue duel. This is perfect. Japan loves baseball. I don't know if they like sunflower seeds as much as baseball people do here in the States, but this is a gold mine.
That's a good point. I never thought of it.
You're not a baseball player, Isaac, but do you know how much people like sunflower seeds in baseball? Like, they go through hundreds of millions of sunflower seeds a year.
Not just at baseball, but like at t-ball, softball. You can't get away from sunflower seeds if there's a baseball diamond or some type of ball diamond.
Absolutely. I think that one's brilliant. And our pal Taidan19,
he's back.
What does he have for us?
He said, well, if they can make BB-8 themed oranges, why not Haro branded oranges? Or limes or whatever. Yeah, why not? A crossover with FCA Motors to create the Garrett Dodge Gundam? Wow. Or Dodge Ram, I should say. That'd work. Captain Bright Bulbs, if they partner with Philips. Yeah, I can see Sunrise doing that. Or at least in Japan. Then again, what's the Bright translation in Japan?
And did you see his idea for Bright Bulbs? He said they would be touch-sensitive lights, so you have to slap them to turn it on.
Oh my god. Or make like a clap noise at least. It sounds like a slap,
That's perfect. I love it. Sunrise, you're leaving money just on your front door, on your front doorstep. I don't get it. You gotta act on these things quick.
Maybe in Japanese culture, since like it's a little impolite to create a sound constantly for light. You're disrespecting other people's quietness.
And then I also loved that he said partner with Kellogg's to make some Hayatos.
Oh, God. Well, are they like little Mafty symbols? Like that circle with like the jagged lightning bolt kind of thing?
Oh, maybe. I mean, you could get all the different O's. You could be like the O from Zeta.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if cereal's big in Japan. When I was there, I don't remember seeing any cereal, to be honest with you.
You know what? I don't even think it's big in Europe.
Maybe our love of sugary cereals is purely an American thing, which definitely sounds like an American thing. But if you live in Japan, let us know. Would like Hayatos take off?
Also, if you're a Japan listener, since you're so rare in general, I'll ship you cereal. I'll ship you American preservative, high fructose, potentially toxic dyed cereal for you to enjoy with a milk of your choosing.
All right, Isaac, let's move on to our 00 review episodes. This got us some more hot and spicy responses.
Oh, God.
Let's start off with one of those, because, who doesn't like a little conflict in the morning? There's a guy or girl on YouTube named Miscellaneous Cam 953. He or she was not very appreciative of our review. They said, wow, the complete dismissal and lack of engagement with the source material is definitely a sight to behold. Well, one, it's not a sight to behold because you listen to it. We don't have any visuals. And two, I'm not sure how you reach that conclusion. Poor Isaac had to watch the second half of 00 twice. He really suffered through that. I have 40 pages of notes after rewatching the whole show. I'm not sure why you think there was a lack of engagement, but I can assure you there was not. We sat through that entire show just as we do with the others, and we just didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean source material? Is there like a pre-manga or something that this was based on that we didn't really completely enjoy? What source material could you possibly be referencing? This series is the source material. That's exactly what we saw. We were trying to get into it, but it's such a polarizing series in general in the fandom, and this is why. Miscellaneous, you clearly enjoy it. I don't know how, but it's your prerogative. You can enjoy it if you like. Brian and I, though, we powered through it, and I don't see us watching it again for a very long time.
Because there was that guy, remember, who was like, you guys don't talk enough about Wing and 00. So then we talked about 00, and now they don't like it because we didn't like it. So I guess maybe we should have just not done it.
I mean, we had to do it, though, just because it's there. And also it has some comedy now that we think about it more. There's
right, yeah.
There's Innovators and Innovators.
Yeah.
There's the convoluted plot with whatever his name was, Alexander, and he was gonna run the world, and then he got one-upped, and then the three super states were at peace, but the Gundam show up because they're here to fight for peace.
But it was always like a tenuous peace. They were like at peace, but they were all secretly developing weapons against each other. So
yeah, but that's like beating someone up because he was. He was thinking of buying like a crowbar, so he got them first. It's like, well, this is very Minority Report where you can't really punish people before they've done anything,
Yeah. And Isaacs, I would love to see Miscellaneous Cam on YouTube go a few rounds with Taidon 19 also on YouTube, because Taidon 19 had the exact opposite opinion of Miscellaneous Cam. You ready for this? I'm just going to read a lot of this because, he was way more eloquent than I think we were, all right? He says, you already pointed out the problems with the space elevator, but there are a few other things. For one, it doesn't really make sense to take modern-era turmoil, i.e. issues in the Middle East, issues in Sri Lanka, or modern-era governments, the U.S., complete with the White House, the PRC, the EU, and just port them into a far future world. It just feels lazy, whereas a genuinely interesting piece of speculative science fiction would ask itself, what would the world look like in 30 years? That hits on my previous discussion about what is sci-fi. I also think that the Shinberg's plan is surprisingly authoritarian. Dude has all sorts of tech that could conceivably aid the plan, and he just hoards it for his personal organization to use to try and dictate the terms of the world via threats of force. Now, that might be interesting if the show ended after the first season with Celestial being realizing that they are, in fact, the bad guys, and with the nations of the world coming together to defeat them. To be fair, it kind of hints at this, but never really pulls the trigger. But of course, doing that would prevent them from making a second season, so monetary considerations took priority over making interesting art. Then you have the characters who are all very young and hot, but lacking in personality, and the mobile suits which are also fairly boring for reasons that I can't quite explain. The only one I have in gunpla form is the real grade Exia, and only because the real grade redesigns it a bit to make it look nicer. I hate to be mean, Isaac, you're ready for the knockout punch, but it really does feel like this show is a mile wide and an inch deep. Everything it tackles is done so at such a shallow, superficial level. I think back to all the other Gundam shows I've watched, and even the worst of them felt like they were at least trying to say something interesting.
Wow.
But I think Gundam 00 is mainly worried about appearing like it's saying something deep without putting in the actual effort. Sorry if that offends any of its fans, but that's how I see it. I would love to get them two in the ring. Just let Tidon 19 and Miscellaneous Cam just go at it.
He makes very strong points, and I have to agree with his final statement that 00 was a mile wide and an inch deep. Very well put, especially when you consider that, unlike perhaps my other show that I compare 00 to, and I think you do as well, Gundam Wing, that very much had a almost repetitive, annoyingly repetitive pacifism message.
Sure.
Whereas 00, it's don't be prepared to go to war with each other when you should be working together waiting for aliens.
That's right. Gotta watch out for those aliens. They're coming.
Yeah.
So get ready. Spoilers. I also really love his point about how they just ported the current issues into 300 years from now. And it is kind of odd to think that those issues would still be there in 300 years. That's a real sci-fi take, akin to what I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
And I agree with him that would have been much more interesting to see what those issues would have been.
God, the more I think about it, there was so little... It felt like there were so little odds of them actually fighting each other, because each side had its own orbital elevator, and they had their own power from their solar energy plants. It seemed like a pretty stable time of peace. And here come the Gundams and ruin everything.
Yep, I agree. Oh, Isaac, I have one that's not on your list.
Oh, wow.
And you're going to love this because it's from Australian Isaac on Instagram. He sent us a voice message. He has a headcanon idea for you, and I think it's pretty good. So he was talking about how you don't like that they continue to introduce new Gundams into the 1 Year War and how it dilutes Amuro's legacy.
Absolutely.
So his thought is, hey, look, Amuro's legacy, his mythos, is the White Devil, right? He's known as the White Devil. Zeon fears him wherever he goes. He's wondering if we can headcanon it and say, hey, what if, because the Zeon people who are always coming into contact with all these Gundams are constantly dying, they actually think that there's only one Gundam shooting in space and down on Earth, and they just think this dude in the Gundam is everywhere, and that's why they're so afraid of him.
Wow.
And that's kind of brilliant. It does reflect poorly on Zeon intelligence. But
yeah.
But I get what he's saying.
It would have to be done in a way where it's believable that the Zeon, or I mean, I guess the Federation would have to be somewhat involved in trying to cover up that there's multiple Gundams. But it would really make the white base, which at this time is kind of one of its own. Well, actually, not really. That's another problem. The white base has the same problem as the Gundam.
True,
where there's multiple Pegasus classes when there should really only be one.
Do you think it's Pegasi or Pegasuses? Or is it just plural by itself? Pegasus is the plural?
I think it might be singular, and then you just go with classes.
Okay.
Pegasus classes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Pegasus class ships. There you go.
All right.
You pluralize.
You fix it. Yeah, you just get around
the descriptive noun.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, I feel like it could be done, and it had to be done well. But this would have to be like such a Federation psyop almost, right? Like they really planted people in to kind of spread the rumor that like, oh, you know, the Gundam redeployed again to Africa, or oh, the Gundam redeployed to, you know, Southeast Asia. Oh no, the Gundam's now at Solomon. You know, Zeon would be really freaking out that, wow, I had no idea the Federation could move its forces so quickly and so efficiently. You know, we're really in for it now. But yeah, that would be interesting. Then again, I wonder, I'm thinking like the 8th MS team. Could conceivably any of the surviving Zeon, well, there weren't any surviving Zeon at the end of it. So none of them could report back, hey, there's another white Gundam here in Southeast Asia. Yeah, so there'd have to be almost a tying up of loose ends, so to speak, of people that could report differently.
Yeah, I could see him doing that. I think it's a good idea, and to your point, if they can find a way to incorporate it to at least some degree, maybe you don't have to encapsulate all the Gundams, but maybe the ones that look similar, because there are some that look completely different, right? Like you have different colors. Like, there was the blue and orange ones in Space to the End of the Flash. But the ground Gundams could easily be mistaken for the normal Gundam. They have kind of the same colors. I think it could work. I like it. It's a good headcanon. Good thinking, Australian Isaac.
Yeah, definitely. Good twist on sort of answering that situation with Amuro.
All right. Should we move on to Mobile Suit Gundam Freedom, Isaac, the film?
My favorite Blackout movie.
Isaac, first comment is from Mark Nelson on YouTube. He also comments a lot on Facebook, and Mark, I apologize again. I don't check Facebook very often just because the interface is terrible, but I'm glad you found your way over to YouTube. So he hated the redubs of the TV series that they recently did, but he didn't feel as bad about it in Freedom because the new voices did the dub in Freedom. I've never watched the old dub. I know you have of Seed. Did you find yourself wanting the old dub cast in Freedom, or did you, because you had nothing to compare it to, was the new dub cast fine? You didn't even notice it.
Okay, I believe that the original Seed dub is superior to the new dub. However, it's not a hill I die on, and for that reason, I was totally fine with hearing the Seed dub and the Seed Freedom dub using the second version of Seed dub. I think it's kind of a non-issue at this point, the new dub. But no, it was workable. It was passable. I have no criticisms of the Seed Freedom dub.
Well, there you have it. I mean, You're the most ardent dub supporter, so if you like it, I think it must be good.
Hang on. I didn't like Seed Freedom, but I did find the dub language, the speaking of it, the new voice actors, completely fine.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. We got another comment from Great White, Isaac. This one made me crack up because in our review, we complained, or at least I complained, that the Destiny Spec 2 doesn't look any different than the original Destiny, and he said, "The Cosmic Era is supposed to be a celebration of all Gundam. The Destiny is like 5 references by itself, and how dare you guys say the Spec 2 looks the same as the OG Destiny? The new one is gray instead of white for all the knockoff Providence Gundam fans."
Wow. Yeah.
He got me there. I didn't notice that it was gray instead of white, Isaac.
That might be the one thing I'd change about Providence Gundam. How, just because it's a bad guy mobile suit, they made it gray instead of white. It's not even like a deep gray, like a Destroy or anything like that. But man, yeah, good point.
So sticking with Freedom, Isaac, the same listeners before, Mark, I think he really enjoyed Freedom. It looked like he saw it 3 times.
Oh my God.
He's a big Cosmic Era fan. I don't think you and him will see eye to eye on everything, but even he agrees that there are some problems with this film. He agrees with us that Agnes was awful. She was almost unredeemable and not worth Luna Maria's legacy. And he said it moved too quick of a pace with the epic fight scenes, which is interesting, right? You can say that fight scenes were epic, which they were pretty good. I'll give him that. But sure, they perhaps were too quickly paced. But he has major issues with some of the mind control, mind reading, etc. Kira surviving 2 nuclear explosion. He was very frustrated with Kira. The first 2/3 of the movie, he was so confident in Seed and Seed Destiny, but in Seed Freedom, he's so fragile and pathetic. He felt it was inconsistent from how he seemed in Seed Destiny, which I could see that. He also brings up, just how does the Proud Defender work? That was the thing at the end that Lacus brought out that attaches to the Freedom, which just makes it, super. Even he's it just shoots random energy. How does it avoid allies? And finally, he found it hilarious how after the battle, Kira and Lacus just fly off down to Earth and get naked. And he had a whole list of stuff that he thought was really good. But I think that's a healthy fan right there, Isaac. I think that was my point in bringing up this comment, that this dude loves the movie, saw it a bunch of times, but even he's like, hey, it's got some flaws. And so I don't feel too bad pointing out what we think are the flaws when even someone like him can recognize that. So good on you, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, we appreciate it. Good on you for enjoying the movie and then pointing out that it wasn't completely thought out when it was written. See, I can't even blame the writers because we don't know if this was an issue of writing, editing, or directing. Or maybe all 3, or some combination thereof. With how movies are made and all the moving parts. I think we just know as Gundam fans that as beautiful as this film was, as great as the animation was in the combat scenes, we wanted it done better.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know what else, Mark? I enjoy incinerations. All right. I enjoy them with the Cyclops system. I enjoy them with Requiem. I enjoy them with the nuclear weapons. I enjoy them with the beam weapons. I enjoy them any day of the week.
Yeah, if there's an incineration, it automatically bumps up Isaac's score by half a haro.
Yeah, I say, play it again.
Isaac, one of our other episodes was on Gundam Smash Brothers. Why have they not made a Gundam Smash Brothers game?
Yeah.
And Geozev's back again. He or she was trying to come up with names. Remember, we were trying to think about what this game would be called.
Right.
He had a word in here, which I thought was pretty good. He was proposing Gundam Metal Mayhem, But I think instead of metal, you just straight up say mobile, and you end up with mobile mayhem. I think that's pretty good.
Whoa, that's brilliant. I mean, he said metal mayhem, and my brain immediately went to Twisted Metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you said mobile mayhem, and that's just the perfect marriage.
Or just even mobile suit mayhem. I think that the M with mayhem goes really well with the word mobile, and alliteration, I'm a sucker for that. So I think that's a strong contender for the actual name.
That'd be perfect, and there's so many fighting games that already have the engine up and running. We really just need to reskin their characters and reskin the arenas.
And he also had some good ideas for the actual game, having assist trophies or stage hazards be mobile armors. That would be great, Isaac, right? If you could get an assist trophy for the Noisiel, I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be awesome. Man, it gives me flashbacks to our Gundam card episode.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where we pretty much told Sunrise what to make.
Yeah, and both him and Great White, they were of a similar mind here, because they were proposing that the final boss, which is usually Master Hand, should have gunplas in the background. It's like a dude that uses gunpla tools as weapons, and Great White even proposed that the hand boss should be using a pair of gunpla nippers, you know, to get your character. I thought that was genius.
Sergeant Sprue. That's a sub-boss.
That's pretty good. I love it.
The old man that's kind of like blurred out, that's actually holding the sprues and stuff, it has to be Tamino. Like, you just see like glasses, like a very out of focus, blurry man with glasses, you know, behind it. It's like, oh god, it's him. It's the boss.
Yeah, as long as you have like a bald head and some glasses, I think you can infer who that is.
Yeah, and he's unstoppable.
Isaac, this comment comes from Great White. It was on our Plot to Assassinate Giran episode. This was an interesting comment. I hadn't thought about this before, but I thought maybe you, as a history/military-ish kind of buff, would have an opinion on this. He said, I wish when the USA invaded a sovereign country for oil, they would release a MGA-10 Warthog or maybe a high-grade Blackhawk with seed dynamic posing. And he's referencing the fact that, you know, in the Plot to Assassinate Giran, Xeon sells model kits of their mobile suits to basically raise money. Isaac, what if Bandai did the same thing to military models that it does to Gunpla? Is there some military model out there that you would really enjoy?
So, like, for the invasion of Iraq, if, like, Bandai released like a Black Hawk helicopter that could transform into like a robot that like American consumers would enjoy.
Yeah, like it's so insensitive, right? You'd be like, oh, the war is terrible, but man, am I excited for that new Black Hawk model that's coming out.
I mean, I feel like that's closer to life than not, simply because during times of war, I imagine war toys get a boost. The propaganda machine probably goes into overdrive, and we get a lot of more war toys, more little war video games. Well, video games especially, you know, the Call of Duty series just blew up, being based around like counterterrorism and stuff.
Right.
All those types of games during the War on Terror really took off. We'll see what history has in store for us next. But
yeah, next it'll just be little master grade models of drones.
Yeah. A swarm of drones. They're all identical, and they're all the size of like your thumb, but you have to build them.
Oh god. Yeah, those things are terrifying. All right, Isaac, next topic is about 5 things that we wanted more of. And we listed our 5 things that we wanted more from the Gundam franchise, and so did the listeners. Tidon 19 wanted an animated adaptation of the Blue Destiny games. The Blue Destiny units, as well as the exam system, are frequently referenced in other shows, games, stories, yet the Blue Destiny story itself is extremely inaccessible because the games are stuck on the Sega Saturn, and the manga/novel adaptations of the story are also extremely old. And I agree with him, Isaac. I bought the 1 volume of the Blue Destiny manga that came out in America, and they just never finished. Not only did they never finish it in America, but the actual manga series, as far as I'm aware, just never finished. And I can't remember if the Blue Destiny games were remade as part of that one side story compilation game on PS3. They may be on there as well. But even that only came out in Japan. I believe that's where the Ifrit came from, Isaac, or at least one of the popular Ifrit designs. I feel like the Blue Destiny story should have been animated in the late 90s, around the time of, you know, 0083, 8th MS Team. I feel like it fits right in with those, and it's sad that we never really got it. Yeah,
I don't mean to criticize the story in this bad way, but from what I recall about the story, it very much feels 0083.
Gundam Jack.
Yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from it. You know, 2 experimental mobile suits, 2 aces, a showdown. Draw your own conclusions about how the comparison was made and how they were developed. But Blue Destiny it's kind of its own little special place, I think, in terms of side stories. It's on the short list of very memorable side story mobile suits and enemy villain mobile suits as well. You know, not just the Destiny Gundam, but also the Ifrit. which is kind of really recognizable, I think, to a lot of Xeon fans instantly compared to a lot of different other suits that maybe aren't, or even custom Zaku's that really aren't recognizable. The Ifrit stands alone. So yeah, it'd be great to see that animated or turned into like a movie, if not a movie, a miniseries.
Well, and Isaac, remember when we played Gundam Battle Operation 2 for those few days? When we logged on, we were in our little Zaku's and gyms or whatever, and everyone else was in their Ifrits with their big special beam Naganatas or whatever the hell the Ifrit has. Like, they kicked our ass. And everyone loves the Ifrit in that game, so yeah, untapped Ifrit market.
Yeah, man. I'd take out the Judah. Let it overheat.
I will say the Blue Destiny also feels like it was I guess obviously along with Gundam Sentinel, maybe you could say the Exam system probably drew on the Alice system from Gundam Sentinel. But Exam, Alice, and then I feel like those are the precursors for a lot of what we see now in the manga side stories with the Hades system, and I forget the other one, but it's all like the Pale Rider and the Red Rider and Black Rider and the White Rider. They all have some sort of similar thing like Exam and Alice to some extent.
I mean, it kind of set the tone, I feel like, for a lot of stories and how they'd go, where there's the aces and then the experimental mobile suits, you know?
Yeah. So I'm all for some more Blue Destiny. I say bring it on.
Sure, yeah. Count me in.
Next topic is 0079 compilation movies, Isaac, which was really fun to watch. Listener JB in US on YouTube recommended a certain song that plays once in 0079, and he felt that it was really representative of how we feel about Amuro tearing through enemies as if they are just in his way. And that song is called, I'm going to butcher this, it's called Gaigeki no Senshitachi. And I listened to it, Isaac. It's great. It sounds vaguely familiar. I couldn't tell you what episode or what part of the movies it plays in, but it is really cool, and I definitely see what he's talking about, and I'm very thankful that he recommended it to me because I have now added it to my Gundam song playlist on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Isaac will go listen to it and then cry because it'll make him think of all the Xeon personnel that Amuro killed.
As he leveled up in what clearly was training in a more combative way of getting experience. Because that's all Amuro did in the 1 year war.
Yeah. His level curve was just up, 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 up. He never stopped gaining experience, that guy. Next comment, Isaac, is from Rubber Shark 3833 on YouTube. And this one blew me away. I did not...
Brian, we have a lot of shark
we do.
Listeners.
Do you think this is Great White in disguise?
Oh, he made an alt account? I don't know. I'd be surprised, but then again, maybe I shouldn't put it past him.
Maybe. What you never know with Great White. He's a
slippery fish.
He says, I walked into Media Play having only seen Gundam Wing. I walked out with the VHS English dub of Gundam Movie 1. I never looked back to Wing. By the end of the year, I had gone back and got the respective sequels. This trilogy can stand on its own and make a UC stand. I'm living proof of it. And yes, they use Esper in the old dub. Also, Char was dubbed by the American Spike Spiegel. Isaac, are you kidding me? Stephen Bloom as Char? Oof, that's a little deep voice for Char. But that's brilliant. I want to see Stephen Bloom as Char.
I'd almost say that doesn't fit because Char's way too young to have that voice. Unless Stephen Bloom is able to manipulate his voice that much where he can sound younger.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that definitely not fitting, but we got to track down these VHSs, Isaac. Maybe we can find a download somewhere, or we can find some VHSs on eBay. I think we need to add that to the 2025 list, the old original English dubs of the Gundam movie trilogy. I think that would be hilarious.
At Frankincense, we'll head over.
Do you think for the full experience we need to watch it on a VCR, like actually on a VHS?
We had to find a VCR.
Yeah, that's true. I think they don't even make VCRs anymore.
No, why would they?
God.
If you're buying a VCR, it's for nefarious purposes.
I mean, I guess I could see buying a VCR to transfer your VHS to DVD or something, or to your computer.
I don't know. I think someone would use a company for that or something, you know, if it was that important. True. Man. There's a bunch of guys going around town. They're looking for a VCR player. What are they trying to watch?
Oh, yeah, we get arrested and they're just trying to watch this Gundam show.
Yeah.
Stupid kids.
All right, you sickos, what's on your VCR? What's in that VHS? It's a Japanese cartoon. We like giant robots.
Yeah, they went after us thinking it was like, tapes of the Diddy stuff, but it's actually just Gundam. Get them out of my squad car. All right, Isaac, in terms of trivia, Great White had a suggestion. What was Kamille doing during Char's counterattack? No one knows. That's too difficult of a question. I guess he was just sitting at home.
He was drooling.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
I mean, he's got to be recovered by then, right? That's like 5, 6, 7 years later. 5 years later.
I don't think he ever recovered. You think he recovered?
He was doing better in Double Zeta.
I guess. He was done. He didn't want another situation where people heard the name Kamille and thought it was a girl's name. Kamille? Huh.
That's an easy way to throw him out of combat, right? You just make a crack about his name.
Yeah. Just in combat where we all know all the pilots can communicate, even the enemies. Did that guy call you Kamille? Are you a woman?
It's like his critical weakness. DMR Frontman 2 on YouTube, he felt that you had a hilarious and accurate Duke Dermail impression at Anime Expo. So your skills are recognized, Isaac. You're making a name for yourself out there.
In case he needs replacing, I will absolutely be there for the Dermail side story. Duking it up.
There you go. All right, Isaac, in terms of Victory Gundam, Titan 19 brought up an interesting thing, which I kind of really agree with him about, and I want to get your opinion. He said, I struggle to remember all of the mobile suits in shows like Zeta Gundam, where it seems there's a new prototype in almost every episode. Yet I can still name and describe more Zeta mobile suits off the top of my head than I can from Victory. They're just that unmemorable for some reason, aside from the 2 Gundams, both of which are among my favorite. And I agree with that pretty much to a T. I love the Victory Gundam design. I think it's one of the best. But all the Zanscare suits, Isaac, they are soft and round and buggy, and I don't know if I could name one.
Yeah, ironically, I can name the organization that ran a lot of their forces, Bespa. We both know Bespa.
Right.
I vaguely remember Yellow Jackets, right? Wasn't that the name of like a squad or something?
Yeah, something like that.
But, God, an actual suit. Let me try.
I mean, there was like the Zalote.
Oh, okay. Contio? Was there something called a Rig Contio?
There was, yes.
I don't even remember the big sniper one.
What was the cool one that attacked from like orbit? That was the one.
The sniper one?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But
I don't know.
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah. So this just goes along with that series being so poorly done that we don't remember a lot of the beats of the story, the pacing. I can remember a few handful of battles, right? There's the battle at the space station, the orbital satellite weapon.
Yeah, it had some good battles, honestly. It's just everything kind of leading up to that.
The Wield fleet.
Oh, boy. Oh, the Zanuck. I remember that was a suit.
You're not wrong, Titan. It was just in your eyes and out the other. You know, it was kind of a forgettable series that's too slow to watch and enjoy.
Sad times. In terms of mailbag comments, Isaac, I had to bring up this one. This one is from Logander9027. If you remember, he was the individual who said he had some health problems and our podcast was helping him feel better. And that just made our hearts warm up, right, last time. And
great to hear.
He said, thank you so much for the shout out. My health has been improving a little bit, thankfully. You guys made my year. Thanks for taking the time to make this podcast and keep up the great work. Yeah, take that, Miscellaneous Cam and the other guy who hates us.
Logander, we love you.
Perhaps you all can answer this question next mailbag episode. If you had to live in one Gundam universe, what would it be and what faction would you choose?
Oh my God.
He would be in Iron-Blooded Orphans because even though his mobility is about the same as Mikazuki's in the second season, in a Gundam frame, he would be able to move around and kick some tail. So what do you think, Isaac?
Okay. This is a difficult question to answer.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you pick like one where there's constant war, you might not make it.
Right.
But if you pick like the safe choice, like build fighters.
Yeah, I say we rule out build fighters. That's too easy of a choice, I think.
Oh, wow. That's like going to a paradise world.
Yeah.
Man, I'd have to go with the Universal Sentry. Yeah, just because it's so fleshed out. Oh, God, what faction would I be? I mean...
And what time frame in the Universal Century are we talking about here?
Would I be like the one officer screaming at Dagwin before he leaves Site 3? Like, do not leave for this peace negotiation. What are you doing?
Your son is an a-hole.
Yeah. You don't have to go in person to negotiate peace. Send some random admiral.
Or send a note. Send him with a scroll that he can unfurl when he gets there.
Yeah. Arrest Giran. What are you doing? He just built a super weapon. I guess I just answered that, yeah, I'd be the final Degwin loyalist that's like, well, if you think about it, this guy's really the one that led us to victory this far, so we really shouldn't be listening to Giran that much.
I think you just want to live in Zum City.
Pretty much. I'll go to the opera a lot, like that one armchair general, the bureaucrat that was like, his job does nothing. He just collects money and watches opera. I'd be close to that. Yeah, how about you?
I don't know, man. The Universal Century is pretty hazard-ridden. I don't know if that's a wise decision for my health. How about this? I'll give which faction I would join in the Universal Century if I joined, and then I'll also think of like an alternative. If I was in the Universal Century, I would probably have to ally myself with the Federation, just given everything all considered. I mean, I guess I'd like to say that, you know, I'd sign up with the AUG or something. But if you're talking about where I think I would have a good life, you know, I don't know. I feel like I'd try to stay out of the military. Like, I'd go live where Shakti lives, you know, like in the woods or something. But if I had to choose a different universe, oh man, you know what? I think the G Gundam universe is pretty cool. It's like a sport over there. I guess you just don't want to live on Earth, right? Because it's kind of trashed. I mean, you can't pick Gundam X. That's a mess. Wing, I feel like that's dangerous. There's war all over the place there. The Leos don't hit anything. You might get hit by stray Leo fire because they never hit their targets.
Yeah, or worst case scenario, you find out wherever you're vacationing or you where happen to live by is near like an Earth Alliance base.
Right.
So
yeah,
the Gundams show up and just annihilate everything.
Yeah, you have no defense. You can't ally yourself with the Gundams because they only have like 5 people.
Tro goes into murder mode and destroys your city.
Yeah. Yeah, they say, "Oh, we didn't kill anybody, but like you sure blew up a lot of property. I'm pretty sure some people died and all that."
You're picking up a pizza and you accidentally run into a hero, and now he thinks you see him and you're onto him, so he tries to kill you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's very dangerous. Yeah. The Cosmic Era is too deadly. I can't live there. The Destroy Gundam. If the Destroy Gundam visits your continent, you're screwed. Iron-blooded orphans, you might get wiped out by a mobile armor, like a rogue mobile armor.
The trick for Seed is, ironically, you have to live in like blue cosmos areas, like the Atlantic Federation, because they are never attacked. Right. They're the ones that do the attacking. I don't know why, in the name of God. Zaft has never like kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, you know, we should probably attack where blue cosmos actually is. But no.
And you can't even choose Orb, right? Because even Orb got pillaged quite a few times.
Remember in the Freedom movie, Orb was like 10 minutes away from being annihilated? Yeah.
That was great. That was one of the best parts of Freedom when they called Orb's bluff. They were like, nah, we don't believe you. You're lying. Like, you do this all the time. We're not going to fall for it again.
You did this trick last time where you sent your fleet out to fight the enemy, and then you said they got away.
Right. We're not falling for your BS this time. Yeah, that's hard, Logander. I don't know.
I do kind of wish, though, in the Freedom movie they did destroy Orb. And I'm not just saying that to destroy it, but it would reset sort of the setting in a great way.
Oh, I agree. It removes the neutral safe zone. I definitely think they should have done that. That would have been a good opening thing for the movie because you no longer have Orb to fall back to.
Kind of like in The Force Awakens, the first time I saw it, I pretty much mouthed, "Oh my God," when Starkiller fires and it looks like it destroys Coruscant.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, I was like, wow, they did it. And then, of course, you leave the theater and like you read online, like, oh, by the way, that wasn't Coruscant. That was this other planet that they put the galaxy capital on. I was like, oh, God.
Do you think, though, that was like more the guy at Lucasfilm that's in charge of the holocron where he's like, hold on, you guys didn't actually do that. Let me write something that fixes that because you can't destroy Coruscant.
That's such a BS. They should have just gone out and destroyed it. That would have actually raised the prequels because that'll be the last time we see Coruscant.
Is that like the ultimate way that Disney could have banished the old books? By destroying Coruscant?
Why not? I mean, they already killed like all the other characters. Just destroy the planets next.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's my answer. I think I'll stick to G Gundam, Logander. It's a dangerous universe, but I feel like it's less dangerous than the other ones. So I'm going to go there, and I'll try to be a mobile fighter because Isaac knows I love my martial arts, and I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Just get to Neo America. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Chibity, he's like so. I'll replace Chibity.
Yeah, he'll do... Well, I don't know. Something else.
Please refer to our Create a G Gundam episode for the North America Gundam that I would make.
Greed Gundam.
That was one of them, wasn't it? Was it like Business Gundam or something?
Just a big Wilson Fisk corporate Gundam just marching around.
All right, Isaac, next topic. our episode on making Gundam Field, the Battlefield-like game, but Gundamized. Jared Higgum, 869 on YouTube, he brought up a bunch of like sort of games that are closer to military simulators that he thought would be good comparisons. They would allow you to have, role-based gameplay, people playing Magellas and Dops and Zaku's with special squads and whatnot, instead of just everybody kind of in mobile suit. I've never heard of any of these games, like Squad, Postscriptum, or Hell Let Loose. Have you heard of those games?
I've heard of all of them except Postscriptum. Wow. So let me do a quick breakdown. So Squad is an extremely realistic, no pun intended, but squad-based shooter. Very minimal HUD. It requires a lot of communication with your squad. You can't really pick any weapon you want. You have to pick a much more realistic, loadout that you would have for your specific role in the military as it exists now. And there's a lot of radio communication and coordination. Very anti, quick gamer fighting.
Got it.
I don't know what Postscriptum is, but Hell Let Loose is much the same like Squad, except it's back during World War II. So you're a guy with a rifle. There's no information on your screen about where your crosshair is or anything like that. You kind of have to point your gun and hope it gets to where it's supposed to go.
Wow.
It's hard to see enemies hiding in the bushes because, you're not going to right click on your mouse to zoom in. Instead, you're kind of just, this is your vision.
Wow.
You better hope there's not someone in that tree. Move cover to cover. You have to open up your map to kind of figure out where you are and see where your friends are. It's a very hyper-realistic approach to military simulation.
Okay, so do you think that those would be a good template for a Gundam game, or at least a certain type of Gundam game?
It would, but to the extent that, at the end of the day, a Gundam game is you're in the cockpit. So if they wanted something where, you have to switch to the map, then, yeah, I can see it where, maybe the map takes up your HUD, so now you're kind of doing a trade-off between, you wanted to see where you are, but now you can't really see the enemy field.
Sure.
Kind of like what Keith had issues with when he was training with Lieutenant Burning.
Yeah.
Or other issues of hey, you took damage, so your crosshair's not really going to work. That's life. There's no repair button.
Sure.
You're just that way until you get back to the white base and, you're able to repair your mobile suit in the hangar. So they could definitely make it hyper-realistic if they wanted to. Would the Gundam fans want that? Some definitely would. Some wouldn't. The casual playing fans, I can see them being a little put off by that, but hardcore kind of mech fans that want a very intense mech warrior style game experience, yeah, they'd absolutely love it when a leg takes damage, an arm gets blown off, things like that.
Yeah, that was kind of a similar reaction that I had. My thought was because I think we talked about that, having different people in Magellas and Saberfishes and Core Fighters and Dops, and maybe not everyone's in a mobile suit, but then I think you get into the player problem of most of the players are going to want to be in the Gundam, and that's probably why we don't have a game like that.
Yeah, instead we got mass market stuff, which we didn't entirely enjoy.
Because if you're the DOP pilot, you drew the short straw, you know what I mean?
Right. God, what do you do?
Yeah, you fly around and try not to die, I guess. That's kind of what DOPs do.
You really focus on the Type 63s and say, this is as good as it gets.
The Magellas and the DOPs, they did pretty well in Requiem for Vengeance, I guess, all things considered. Another comment on Gundam Field from Great White. He is yelling at us that we should play Gundam Versus. And I've never played Gundam Versus. I think the problem is, Isaac, everybody's telling us to play Gundam Versus, and now everyone wants us to play Gundam Breaker 4, I think, is the new one that came out. Yeah, we just don't have a lot of time, man. There's a lot of Gundam games, as we said, and they come out fairly frequently, so I don't know. It sounds like Gundam Versus is pretty cool. That could be one to try as well. Great White is wholeheartedly endorsing it here. Have you heard much about Gundam Versus?
No, I haven't actually heard anything about it at all. I vaguely remember hearing that it existed, but I haven't heard reviews or opinions. I haven't seen playthroughs, but I'd be optimistic that I'd enjoy it. At the same time, if it's anything like the sort of very hyper-competitive fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, I can absolutely see myself being turned off because I just don't have the spark for fighting games has never really hit me that well. I was never a Marvel vs. Capcom guy.
Sure.
Smash Brothers is very different though because of how approachable that game is.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of anti-combo, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody has the same combos, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'd be willing to give it a try, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't enjoy it.
Look, he says it has a Lacoste concert stage, an Arctic base stage, a Solomon stage, and a few other good ones. It's got an Arctic base stage, Isaac. That's pretty cool.
In that case, I definitely would want to try it, man. I hope we see like the high gog in the back doing its cool little slow down that it did with the arm.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. All right, next topic is Lost War Chronicles, Isaac. This was the manga that we read. It was pretty cool. Heavy Metal Gunpla on YouTube. Remember we asked people that what the guy's nickname should be, the Zeon Ace in the series. We asked everyone to come up with a better name for him, and Heavy Metal Gunpla says it should be the Beast of Baikonur. That's pretty good. That's probably better than the one in the book.
Yeah, that's a great name. I forgot what part of Russia is that. Where's a part of Ukraine?
That's the one where the spaceport is, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's the Cosmodrome. Yeah. Okay.
He correctly points out, though, the only issue is, though, it's one battle is not a huge part of the story in the grand scheme of thing in terms of him earning the name, so to speak. But I think it rolls off the tongue better than the one in the series.
The name is good enough that it would spark its own side story. That's how strong the name is.
Yeah, and you could just say that he fought there earlier in the war, and that's where you're in the name. So I would go with it. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, God was called the Nightmare of Solomon, and that was one battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Isaac, and last topic for today is Gundam Thunderbolt. I actually really enjoyed the comments on this, Isaac, because if you remember when we reviewed this show, we had sort of like an opinion overall that the show was very pretty and it was fun to watch and it looked nice, but we were a bit off-put by the characters and kind of the overall harshness of the interactions about what people were doing and maybe the unrealisticness of some things that people do and say in the show. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of questions about the setting, about the More Brotherhood, definitely about how they got a Pegasus-class ship, and then we had even more questions about the Southeast Asia Alliance?
Right, yeah.
There was a lot going on.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of listeners actually shared this opinion. You know, we obviously got some spicy comments on coordinators and 00, which I kind of expected, but I also kind of thought we were going to get a lot of that on Thunderbolt, and we actually got the opposite. A lot of people turned out to agree with us, where they kind of like enjoyed watching it, but they kind of left it feeling like, because of the same reasons. And Tidon had some good observations here on YouTube. He said, I thought Thunderbolt was yet another example of modern Gundam story that tries to paint Zeon in that much more of a sympathetic light while making the Federation look that much more monstrous. Granted, the fact that there's debate about how much of that was the actual Federation versus the More Brotherhood makes the situation more than cloudy. I get that Gundam is all about gray morality, but sometimes it feels less gray morality and more like whataboutism. Outside of Kukuru's Doan's Island, which is a remake of an old story, I can't think of many modern UC stories in which most, if not all, the Federation characters aren't flaming a-holes. And he's kind of right, Isaac. Like, I don't know what we can define as modern, but like Admiral Cohen was a cool character.
Yeah.
But have we had any like newer, nice Federation people that are not protagonists?
High up, Ensign Riddy, maybe, from Unicorn?
Well, he was kind of psycho.
Yeah, well, he did get kind of psycho. He has some good parts, too. Bright.
Bright doesn't
Bright's
count,
an old
though.
character. No, he's an old character. It's hard.
Yeah, I think he's onto something there.
Yeah, we've been very much in the pattern of having the Federation shown as a corrupt large organization. It's going to have corrupt people in it. Whereas Zeon has sort of revolutionary zeal, but it's a mix of characters that are monsters and then those who want change and are well-intentioned but on a not great side.
I typed a reply to him, and in my reply I kind of realized that he was really correct, because I have noticed a lot in the past like year or two that people in the real world are definitely calling out Zeon more in just online discourse, where they're just like, yeah, but it really, come on, Zeon, like, you know, you were doing war crimes. And then I was like, so maybe with that tide turning on the online comments, maybe we would see a similar turn in the media that comes out of it. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, the last thing they just released was Requiem for Vengeance, and that was very much from the Zeon side, you know, sympathizing with the Zeon characters.
Yeah, and I still think about Requiem's ending and how bad that was. Not bad as in poorly done, but bad as in, wow, that was the choice she made.
Right, yeah.
But I'd really hope that if we get another animated series similar to Requiem for Vengeance, that it's from the Federation's point of view, with victims of Zeon's war crimes and atrocities sown, maybe as a squad, kind of like the More Brotherhood, that we absolutely see their perspective as victims fighting back against the injustice and the instigators of Zeon.
Instigators is a good word. Big Sword on YouTube had a similar comment that I thought was very eloquent and maybe summed up what I was trying to say about Thunderbolt in a very short amount of time. He said, I have mixed feelings about Thunderbolt. On one side, it's both extremely confident and competent in design, presentation, and subversion of expectations. On the other hand, the stories it tells are about a world that feels cruel and provocative rather than the tragic stories Gundam has gone for in the past. I understand that is probably the point, but this grimmer world does make the series far less palatable. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. And it's just some of these characters act in a way that just, it's like a world that no one would want to ever exist in.
Yeah, and the person that comes to mind immediately is the base commander for the junkyard in Requiem for Vengeance, who refused to take wounded troops.
Right.
And refused to take essentially their only defense, which would be 2 Bazaku mobile suits. So at times, I know this happens in the real world, obviously, where massively incompetent people make horrible decisions that affect a lot of people. But there's times in Gundam where it's like, really? This is defying even self-interest almost.
Yeah, absolutely. So it defies all logic, where you're just like, okay, maybe you defy logic one time, but when you do it 3-4 times in the same show, it starts to feel a little unrealistic.
At times, I feel like that's really showing me that it was somewhat poor writing, poor planning of the story, because of how much it sticks out, when they could have done something else with the story or the writing.
Yeah, and I feel the same is true of Thunderbolt, where you think about how the Living Dead division is being treated, and you're just like, I can't see this in the real world. Like, it's too extreme to ever exist.
I wonder if, well, no. I was going to say that's intentional.
Oh, it is intentional. I think it's a style choice, but it goes so far where I'm like, it feels excessive in some parts.
Frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Because you're starting to think this isn't believable.
If it's too frustrating and too excessive, it takes you out of the moment. It disengages you a bit. So.
Exactly, yeah.
And the last one is a question, I think, to you, Isaac. Great White says, I would love to see a short animation of Kelly Lasner and Gato at a bar, and Gato's trying to convince Kelly that the Living Dead team would be a good career path for him. Do you think Kelly would go for that? Do you think the Living Dead division is a good landing spot for Kelly Lasner?
I don't think so. Kelly is much more of a frontline guy, as we saw when he was at Solomon before he got, quarter cooked.
Yeah.
His whole plan for the Valvaro falling apart, he put his time and his sweat into something he knew he would be able to pilot straight into combat, outside of whatever his name from Igloo was. I forgot the engineer's name.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of his mobile armor that was kind of in the back lines, all mobile armors have to be used on the front lines. So Kelly would absolutely be kind of insulted by the idea of being a sniper in an area that's not really even part of the war zone anymore. And Gato, being Kelly's friend, I think would absolutely not even recommend that he do it. So it's almost a conversation that wouldn't happen because of how close they are as friends.
Maybe he's just joking with him, though,
Oh, I can see him doing a joke like that, yeah. Or trying to make light of his arm. Kelly would be the type of amputee, maybe, I guess, in the story that Gato and him are so close that he's comfortable of him making a joke about his missing arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Man. But no, Kelly in the Living Dead regiment, no, he wouldn't do it.
Fair enough. Well, there's your answer, Great White.
Someone get punched. We're sitting back here just taking pot shots at those teenagers in the gyms.
Gato might just nuke him, Yeah. All right, Isaac, I think that's the majority of the comments that we felt would fit in here. Anything else you want to say to our listeners before we sign off and from when we land the King Space Pig for one more year?
You know what? You need to make more comments on more videos and more podcast episodes. We read them, we respond to them, send more messages, more DMs. We'll try to get to them when we can. Who knows? You might just be in the next mailbag episode.
All right, with that, take us away, Isaac.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Xeon.
Good night, everybody.